Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Let's Talk. We haven't done this Let's Talk for at least over a month. I've been missing it. I don't know about you. Have you? I suppose you haven't, because there has been many other exciting and interesting programs that we have been having throughout the month of Ramadan, and that's what's kept all of us busy. Well, tonight we are talking about Eid. Since Ramadan is over, let's start by greeting you with Eid Mubarak. Eid Mubarak to everyone who's watching. I hope you had a fantastic Eid. We're talking about Eid. Why is it again this year we did Eid on two different dates? I'm sick and tired of these divisions that we see amongst our communities, especially amongst the Muslims. Why can't our scholars, for God's sake, agree on how to see the moon? Can you, and do you have to really be so difficult? It's only one moon. How many times do you have to see it? You see it once and just get on with it. Why did we do Eid on two different days? That's what I would like to ask and find out. And of course, you can ask and you can find out. I know I am whinging, but do you blame me after such a palaver? I wasn't ready for Eid, but it happened. Never mind. Let's talk about Eid today and the date of Eid. Can we do Eid on one day ever? That's the question we are exploring tonight. So please do give us a call. And of course, you can ask your question, make your point, or even tell us off if you like. For not doing Eid on one day. Let's start by introducing our guests tonight. Firstly, on my left, we have Sulyaman Gani, who is Imam at the Balam Mosque or Tooting Islamic Center. You will have seen him with me on Channel 4, Make Me Muslim program. So he's not an unknown face to our communities across the country. Sulyaman Gani, welcome to our program, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, alhamdulillah, still in good spirits in this blessed month of Shawwal.
Good to see you, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan.
Barakallah fikum. It's he's forever young looking, alhamdulillah. Also, we have brother Qamar Uddin, who is a scientist. He's a research scientist for a government agency. But more especially, he has researched on the issue of moon sighting and all the related issues to do with the moon for the last 10 years. Brother Qamar Uddin, welcome to our program, and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for coming. You came all the way from York, and we're very grateful. Well, let's start by asking this question. Since you are the scientist here, let me start by asking the scientist, what's wrong with us? Why do we have to have Eid on two different dates?
Well, if it is only relating to science, then the answer can be given very simply. But we have to package science in the light of the Sharia, what the Quran and Sunnah says. And the Quran tells us that the month can begin from the first sighting of the moon.
Yeah.
Now we have in Islamic jurisprudence fiqh that there are two principles. One is local sighting and other is global sighting. Local sighting is known as ikhtilaf matali, and global sighting is considered as ittihad matali. Now traditionally people have followed only local sighting. So if the first visibility of the moon appeared, say, in Malaysia, the people will start the sighting, do it there. And then, because the sun rises from the east and sets in the west, and it is not a flat earth that everybody sees at the same time, it is a globe. So as you are moving toward the west, it is setting later and later. And as it is getting older, it appears higher in the sky and more easier to see. So people say in Pakistan, after a few hours, they would see the same moon few hours later, and they'll do their Eid. And say people in Saudi Arabia will see that moon a bit later on, and etc. until to the west. Now, from the first visibility point, the moon should be sighted throughout the whole world in 24 hours. However, unlike the international dateline, the first visibility can happen from anywhere on the globe. And so the 24-hour of the moon may overlap with two solar dates, and sometime over one solar date. So
okay, we're getting a bit complicated already, but let's get to that in a second. Let me ask you this question, our viewers. If you're watching this program, are you happy with what's going on with the Muslim communities not being able to finish their fast on the same date, start their Eid on the same date, and celebrate Eid with their families? You know, if you have a family member in Birmingham, they may have done Eid on a different day than the one you did in London. And is it all to do with the influence of foreign countries? Is it because Saudi Arabia has declared Eid, the rest of the country had followed? Or is it because there were local sighting or global sighting? What do you make of it all? Let me take a call and then I'll, of course, come to Sulyaman Gani. Salam alaikum, caller. Hello, salam alaikum.
Hello, salam alaikum.
Oh, well, the person has gone. When you do call us, please do switch off your volume in the television so we can hear you and we don't have an echo. Please do keep calling and we will definitely take you on. Sulyaman Gani, you are a scholar. You have studied Sharia since, I don't know, probably your very young days. And you are now a renowned established authority in Britain. What's wrong with this scholastic community of ours? Why can't our scholars decide on one formula that would fit the whole country? What's wrong with it?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, mashallah, I think what's the main problem? First of all, we go back to what the Quran says, and thereafter, in addition to what Brother Qamar, somebody who is a specialist in this field, what we are saying is that all these calculations and data, where the confusion lies, that people are thinking that we are using this data to establish our months. This unity can only be established if we maintain the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. La tasumu hatta tarawu al-hilal, wa la tuftiru hatta tarawhu. You start your Ramadan by the actual physical sighting of the hilal, end your Ramadan by the actual physical sighting of the hilal.
Where?
Now this is the question, where? Now here in the UK we have a very unique situation, geographical location. The scholars and even from great scholars, the likes of Imam Subki, have all explained that it is very natural, the natural order of Allah with regard to the phases of the moon, that the night always begins on the countries on our east. So as we go westwards, the hilal will get bigger and bigger. So that is why, as Imam Subki says, that you would look, إذا ثبتت رؤية الهلال في البلاد الشرقية لزمت رؤيته في البلاد الغربية دون عكس. If there is a sighting of the hilal of a crescent on any country on our east, any country, including Saudi Arabia, as long as it is a credible sighting, as long as it does not go against the natural order of Allah, الشمس والقمر بحسبان, the sun and the moon are computed. Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Yasin, وَالْقَمَرْ قَدَّرْنَاهُ مَنَازِلَ حَتَّى عَادَ كَالْعُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ. The moon, Allah has kept the phases until it becomes like the shape of that wooded date.
But hang on. Sorry, Sulyaman Gani, you are making the whole discussion more complicated than my question. Right. The answer is fantastic. I like that. But let me make it clear. So for me, I'm a man of very little knowledge perhaps on this topic. Let me explain this to me. Rasul said that it should be cited for the beginning and the end of Ramadan. Where should it be cited? Anywhere in the world. How can that be possible? If, for example, in New Zealand, they celebrate New Year one day ahead of what we do. It's impossible in terms of the time zone for us to start celebrating Eid, beginning and ending of our Ramadan based on moon being sighted in any parts of the world. It doesn't make sense, scientific sense.
That is where the issue is. We have said country on the east. Now, if you look at the west, you're not going to get this big. That is why 24 hours.
Say, for example, furthest east of the planet today is New Zealand. Furthest east you can go from where we are. If they'd see it in New Zealand, they would have seen it one day ahead.
No, I think this is where Brother Qamar will clarify that point. The international solar dateline he will explain. But what I'm saying, a credible sighting on the east, as long as in the country moon is on the horizon, people have sighted it. Then as you go westwards, you have to have a sighting, meaning the sunset is later on the western horizon, hilal will be bigger, and people, if they claim the sighting, then country on the west of that country will also have a sighting. So,
so what you're saying is, it's not just one country where sighting should be, it must be locally sighted everywhere.
Everywhere. There are countries that only do local sighting. They do not even rely on a country on the east. Like we have countries like Morocco, country like Egypt, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. They all do local sighting. They do not rely on any country on the east.
It makes no sense to me still, because we live in a modern day and age, Brother Qamaruddin, and I want you to answer this question because you are a scientist and you know the complexities of this. But let me take a call. Salam alaikum, caller. Hello, salam alaikum. Salam alaikum. I can't hear you.
Hello.
Hello, salam alaikum. We can hear you now. Please go ahead. Hello. Caller, if you are there, please speak, otherwise we'll move on. Well, sorry, we can't hear the caller. If there is a technical problem, please sort it out before you send any calls to the studio. Well, if you're calling, please do speak up and kindly switch off the volume of your television set so we can hear you, inshallah, clearly. It's a program for you, so do call. We'd love to hear from yourselves about your views. So, look, put my misery to a rest, please. Caller apparently is back again. Hello, salam alaikum. Salam alaikum. The caller can't hear me.
Hello.
Hello, salam alaikum. We can hear you.
Hello, salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Who's calling?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I can lip read, but I cannot hear you at all.
Please
sorry.
go ahead, speak. Tell us your view.
I'm listening. I'm sorry, I can't hear you at all. I'd just like to thank you for bringing us such a wonderful topic today. I think, hopefully we'll sort something out by next year. I think, in one view, instead of doing, as a Muslim, Islam thing is a global issue, instead of doing Eid globally, it would be better to do it nationally. So if we have a sighting of the moon in England, the British people do the Eid, but then Bangladesh sighting is Bangladeshi people do it. So it should be nationally, not globally, as we're going to have these time zone differences. It's going to be almost impossible.
Thank you very much. It's a fantastic suggestion.
Hopefully, inshallah, we have some.
Thank you. Now, Assalamu alaikum. The sister couldn't hear me for whatever reason. If this is true for everyone, please do sort it out. Our technical team in the control room. We could hear the sister. A fantastic suggestion. Will come to it. Brother Qamar Uddin, callers are calling us because the program has touched the raw nerve of many of our callers. Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Hello?
Yes, could you kindly switch off the television's volume first and then speak? Okay, go ahead.
It's just a quick question with regards to
yes?
Ramadan and how the fighting is. What is the actual sunnah of the Prophet? What happened at the time of the Prophet when we celebrated Eid before? Hasn't there been any cases where the moon was not sighted? And what I've heard is possibly travelers coming along and finding and meeting the Prophet and giving him evidence that the moon was sighted. Should we not be following this?
Okay, well, thank you very much. Wonderful question. We'll come to all of those questions and all the discussions. Let's understand the bottom line to this discussion. First question, is it true that a day may begin in New Zealand 24 hours before it begins in London?
No.
Okay, so how many hours can we say for example, we see on television screens, a New Year arrives by the solar calendar in New Zealand much earlier than it happens in our streets in London.
Right.
So how is it possible that the sunset or 12 o'clock midnight indicator of New Year arrival has already happened in New Zealand and we are doing it much later? Why does that happen?
In order to answer this question, we have to understand the orbit of the sun and the moon.
Okay.
The Earth spins on its own axis.
Okay.
And once every 24 hours. And it is the side which faces the sun, that is the daytime. The side which faces the opposite the sun is the nighttime. Okay. As it comes round, we get the opposite. Now, within 24 hours, the whole world will get one day. Now, the moon is orbiting the Earth in another orbit, and the whole thing is orbiting the sun.
So, let's understand. So, if this is the sun,
so
if this is the Earth,
yeah,
Earth is rotating in its own orbit.
Yes.
Is the sun always facing the Earth?
Is the
sun always facing the
The
Earth?
sunlight is always
on the Earth.
On the Earth.
Earth moves, so therefore day and night happens.
Yes.
What about the moon?
The moon is orbiting the Earth.
So the light of the moon.
The moon has no light of its own.
So it's borrowed light from the sun.
sun.
So when the sun is behind the moon, we get the moon lit and we see the light.
When the moon is opposite side of the Earth, facing the sun, all the light of the sun is reflected off the moon and we see a full moon.
So now, let's understand this. So if we are able to see the moon on the opposite side, at what point does it first become visible in what part of the world?
Okay. Now, when the moon continues its orbit from the opposite side, it comes to a point where it is in between the sun and the moon and the earth in one plane.
Okay.
And this plane is called new moon conjunction time.
Okay.
This is the point where the moon is invisible, because no light of the sun is reaching the earth because the moon is in between.
So from that point, it's point 0.
This is point 0, but it is not until some 18 hours about that later that when it moves away from that line of conjunction, that some of the light from the sun can be reached.
Fine, that's fantastic. So as soon as it's moved a little bit further,
yes.
Which direction does it move? West or east?
The moon is rotating in that direction.
So it's in the anti-clockwise direction.
Yes.
So if it's anti-clockwise direction, it's going in the westerly direction. If it's moving out and it's not on the line of conjunction, it's now moved out to the west, and therefore it's become visible.
It is relative because the earth is spinning on its own axis, and the moon is orbiting.
The earth is also the spinning on an anti-clockwise version. So if everything is moving on an anti-clockwise version, it's immaterial.
Yes.
My point is, at which point on the face of this earth could a new moon for the first time be visible? Which country?
Okay, this is different every month, and this is why we have the problem as we have today. Because like the sun, for a given date, the sunrise and sunset is exactly at the same time. But the moon, because it is the shorter year, it is always changing its location on the earth.
So that's the master strike of the master here. The point we are trying to establish. We can never have the same moon sighted at the same country, at the same point of, what junction did you call?
Conjunction.
The conjunction point. It continuously moves.
Yes.
So we can't say from tomorrow, first point of sighting, say for example, should be Timbuktu. We can't say that.
No. Every month it is different. Because and I have a diagram here which shows that.
Because naturally it continuously moves.
Yes.
So we're in trouble. Let's take the next call. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Who's calling and where are you calling from? Go ahead, brother.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. What would you like to say?
I think there's a technical problem. Anyway.
Okay.
Firstly, I would like to say late Eid Mubarak to everyone in the studio. And secondly, I'm not very knowledge that scientific figures and all that, but can it be, I mean, especially at this day, 21st century, that we can relate to the astrology's calculation?
Astronomical calculation.
Everyone not around the globe.
Okay. Fine.
Yes,
let's ask that question. Can we rely on astronomical calculation? Okay.
And then hopefully we can come to a solution where everyone can do Eid on one day instead of having all this conflict and arguments about separate days.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Sulyaman Gani, one question please, which has been asked by one of our callers. At the time of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, how did they do their Eid? How did they determine when they should do Eid? Very simply, please tell us.
I mean, very simply is obviously you're looking at Medina Munawwara, you're looking at when Eid became Farad on the second year after Hijrah, Eidul Fitr, Eidul Adha the same, and people were doing the local sighting. There was no evidence of any synchronization, of any...
Take me through the journey. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with his companions went out to look for the moon.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And they, with their naked eye, they saw the moon.
Yeah, they would do the sighting for the actual sighting of the Hilal to commence the beginning of the months, yes.
So, is it therefore mandatory on all of us to have a sighting of the moon either through a reliable person or persons that they've seen it with their naked eye?
Yes, it is actually it becomes wajib al-kifaya. There has to be a people and a group of people who are doing the actual local sighting in any country that they're living in any part of the world.
So why do we need to do that sighting when, Brother Qamar, when science can tell us precisely at what second this new moon will be visible in my horizon in Britain? Why do I need to do sighting?
Okay, we have to, before I answer the question, we have to distinguish there are two types of calculation.
Okay.
One is the new moon conjunction, and one is the calculation of the visibility of that moon.
Okay.
The new moon conjunction calculation has been known to be accurate for centuries. Okay. Even at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Jews of Medina were able to calculate the birth of the moon. Mm-hmm. But this knowledge was only confined to a few people, a specialist. And Prophet ﷺ wanted the Muslim to have a simple method of beginning the month without having to rely on sources which is not easily accessible. So he said, you start your month by first sighting. Now, until a couple of decades ago, maybe around 1980s, the computational power to calculate the visibility of the moon for every latitude and longitude on the world map was not available. Okay. So many Muslim scientists have attempted in the past in order to calculate the visibility of the moon, but the margin of error was quite large. But since early 1980s, Professor Muhammad Ilyas from Malaysia, he started this research on the visibility calculation. The accuracy of the visibility calculation has come leaps and bounds. And it is now, personally, I have tested every month over the last 10 years at least. Mm-hmm. And I found that visibility calculation to be highly accurate.
So just to make it, because we're going to a break, so now that the technology is available to be able to determine exactly at what date, what time, what second moon is going to be visible in my horizon,
yes.
Why can we not rely on this alone?
This is very simple and easy for the scientists to provide the answer to, but it is dependent on the Muslim scholars, okay, so if they will accept that or not.
It's a problem, hold on, Sulyaman Gani, that lies in your court. I'm going to take a break. When we come back after the break, I'll try and see if I can mediate between the science and the scholars of our time. Don't go too far away. Assalamu alaikum.